John, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in Justin?
Well, let me first start out by saying the residents of Justin historically have been very, very non-participatory in this city council type election. Very rarely do we have more than 10-15% of the voters stand out to vote. That also translates into the way they are involved with the city. And I think it's an important question you're asking. It's our hope to improve the number of people that are involved by our new website, by getting them involved with that, with our new communications person, pushing information out from the city to the residents and providing a way for them to input back to us. We're also looking at, in the next year, that new implementation, more use of the online facilities of mygov.com. We have a new communications function within the city, which is going to promote more outgoing data and incoming traffic to the city itself. At some point in my next term, our next term, or whoever's, I'd like to see the city do an outreach, a targeted survey to the people of Justin to tell them what they think about the city, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and what kind of things would they like in the future. We want to expand communications from the city into the HOAs, providing another door for information to flow to and from the city on all range of subjects, code enforcement, new codes, new roads, new subdivisions, etc. We also want to investigate the use of town hall meetings again. Many years ago here in Justin, we had several pretty interesting town hall meetings, and I think we should do that again. Maybe one, maybe two a year, maybe for a special purpose or for a limited amount of purposes. Also, one thing we want to continue doing, we've been doing an online meeting, city council meeting during the COVID crisis. We want to continue that and hopefully do it a lot better than we've done in the past, even when we go to live city council meetings again. So we want to give every opportunity for the citizens to talk to us individually or collectively. And I think that's what I want to see done in the next 2 years.
John, if you received a $1 million grant for use for the city in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, for first place, it would depend on where you got the money, because in my experience so far, every bit of money that we've ever received from the city has strings on it, and you have to be very, very careful about that. Wants and needs has been used a couple of times here. If I was the only one making the decision, I'd take the full $1 million and help apply it to building our new fire station and help move the fire department out of downtown near 4th Street, freeing that space up for commercial development and further expand the Old Town Business District. That would be my personal frame of choice. But in the reality, we have other needs that could take higher priority. I don't know if you all are aware of the fact we're on the Upper Trinity water system. Between us and the Upper Trinity, there's a massive growth of water usage in new subdivisions. We're going to have to start building larger water towers and ground storage. We need to ensure our water supply, so that might be a good choice for it. All in all, though, it would be up to the city council and the mayor, working with the new city manager, to determine which of the needs would take the money first. And we always operate under a balanced budget, and our financial policy that we have in the city now requires that money to be in the bank in interest-bearing accounts, and that's what we do with everything.
What are your top legislative issues for the city? Again, please be as specific as possible.
The same legislative agenda I had since I first tried to run for city council in 2002, I believe it was, maybe 2003. We need to continue to improve the infrastructure, specifically our roads. I want to see that maintain a very high priority. It was neglected for many years, and it needs to be. We've got a road fund developed, and we have a plan of action, but we need to make sure we follow through on that continually. We need to complete the next phase of the Swift water main replacements to help get cleaner water to our citizens on a daily basis. These are things that have to get done. These are not the nice things that have to get done, but these are the things that must get done to keep this city operating. I want to see us settle, completely finish out the North Lake lawsuit that we have been tied up in and tying our hands expansion-wise for the last 15 years. We have on the books a new town center development. I'd like to see that through. I'd like to see that come to fruition as one of the major business districts. We have 4th Street, we have the area south of Bishop Park there where we're developing a town center. We've got 1st Street, everybody calls it 407 West business districts area. We need to work with those areas and develop those areas to bring more businesses into Justin. That's one thing. We need to revitalize or re-innovate 4th Street itself. Not spending a great deal of money on it, but we need to go in there and put some street lighting, sidewalks, and some better sidewalks in to help that area be more attractive to people, particularly in the evenings. Anyway, that's fundamentally my plan.
John, the next question for you, what would be your approach in dealing with the Main Street downtown area, if any?
I kind of addressed that earlier, but we have an old street that is really an interesting, eclectic set of buildings that could very simply and relatively easily become a really nice, attractive area for evening entertainment, dining, and things of that nature. That's something that a lot of people have talked about for a long time. I support that, and I totally feel like we can do some things there relatively inexpensively, and in the short term help improve that area. But I don't think we're going to be able to make any major efforts in that area until we get the fire station and its equipment moved out of there and have that land freed up for development. What we can do is help the area improve their signage, help put in better sidewalks, help put in consistent lighting, which is very consistent with the downtown parking lighting. So it ties it all together at night in a visual effect and make that place more attractive, and hopefully working with the EDC folks and some of the developers help attract some other types of business down there in the entertainment type area, pubs, restaurants of that nature.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
John, what involvement, if any, have you had in city matters?
Very little. Moved here in 1999 and 2001. We opened a business which got us very involved with the city on a day-to-day operational business. I was appointed to the first I believe it's the very first EDC commission or CDC commission. I was co-chair of that for a while when we were getting our feet off the ground. We even conducted a seminar, 3-day seminar for the city staff and the city council, chair helping develop a vision and plan for the city of Justin. That was way back in 2002, 2003, 2004 timeframe. I ran for city council back then, got defeated in a really exciting election between the Meadowlands, which had most of the city, had a mayor and several council members on the council, and Old Town. Old Town finally woke up and realized their city was being run by people that were not new to the city. So they rebelled, and I didn't get my seat. But I never gave up. Then I kept staying involved with the city in various roles. Ended up being appointed to fill a vacant seat to the city council in 2017. Got elected to that seat in 2018. Then disappointingly ran in 2020, and then got appointed to a vacancy again, and now I'm running again. During my tenure, I was the one that led the fight to open up the city council to the two-part sessions that we have now. When we open the council meeting, we have an open workshop session that citizens can, without registering, without doing anything, can interact with the council and talk about the decision, talk about the stuff we're getting ready to vote on. It was resisted because some people thought we were going to get too many people involved and it was going to drag things down, but it's turned out to be very informative to everybody. And I think now as we move into the future, it's even going to be more important. Anyway, that's how I've been involved. Oh, and I led the fight to create that road fund that is redoing those roads right now, which incidentally, I'll have to add, is not a finished project. That is a perpetual project that will run. And when it finishes the first cycle, it will be running on the second cycle.
Thank you, John. John, what do you feel is Justin's greatest challenge in this economic climate?
I think the biggest challenge in this economic climate is to spend within our resources and try to develop a city that is in a position to handle the diversity of new people that we have, the volume and diversity of new people. I'm not for sure everybody realizes this, but according to the 2020 census data, 41% of the people in Justin today were not born even in Texas. And I know our customer base, in the last 2 years, it's just every time I turn around, it's somebody from California or Colorado or Oregon or Washington or Illinois or Detroit or New York, Florida, everywhere. They're moving here in groves. So our biggest challenge is financially is to meet that growth, manage that growth, and not outstrip our ability to fiscally manage our finances. It's awfully easy to go out and borrow money. We have, in the last 2 years, increased our credit rating, incidentally, by the introduction of really good financial controls and sound financial policies. And then all of that comes at a time when, if we achieve the settlement, which we believe we're going to, with the North Lake lawsuit, we're going to have an opportunity to expand this city and grow it maybe even twice or 3 times the size relatively rapidly. And that is going to be a tremendous amount of work and effort and communications with the existing citizens and with the potential new citizens. So we have our work cut out for us for the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to be full bore all the time.
Thank you, John. John, if elected, what 3 steps would you take to improve the city's financial footing?
Well, it's hard to when you say improve the footing, you improve our balances or what? We have a very, very sound existing financial policy, which proves that the controls and the processes we have in place they were enough that we actually got, I mentioned it earlier, the credit rating for Justin as a city was increased for the first time in the history of the city because we had good, sound, productive reasons. I think our budgets are realistic. They're not extravagant. I believe we're spending within our means and we're focusing on the right priorities without going into debt that would cause us to have to raise taxes. And that's one thing we don't want to do. In fact, I would not be surprised if we didn't try to even cut some taxes off the city tax rate. But as far as people talking about our financial condition, we're in the best financial condition we've been in years, probably in the history of the city, considering all the growth. And with all the new developers coming our way, which is a challenge to work with the right ones, we're in a pretty good condition to weather. Interesting little note, during this COVID-19, a lot of the cities around the state of Texas had large shortfalls in their sales tax receipts because people weren't going out. Well, Justin didn't suffer that. Okay, about 15% of our budget depends on sales tax. So we're not as vulnerable as other cities are on that. So I think we're in pretty fair shape. There's always room for improvement. There's always a bump out there in the road that we're going to probably hit someplace that we don't foresee, but we are shooting for that 120-day, which we're not quite exactly 120 days yet. But I'd even like to see us move that up to 150. But I can't see any one particular thing other than the hiring of the new city manager that could help us adjust that.
John, what brought you here?
It's a story that can't be told in several sentences, but I'll try. I spent the last years of my life up till 99 outside the United States, and I was coming home with my wife, Carla. I was originally coming home to work in Plano at the headquarters of the company I worked for, and my family was all in South Fort Worth. And so we started in Plano looking for a place to buy, and we kept moving west to get out of the Plano area and move further and further, and stumbled across this little place called the Meadowlands on the 407 and found a house, and next thing and bought it, and then left and went back to Europe. And then decided to take an early retirement, and glad I'd bought the house. And we moved back here in November. I believe it was actually November the 7th of 99 is when we actually moved into the house we bought in July. Been there ever since, been here ever since. It was and remains a very good place to live and work. It's not the place we can live, work, and play yet, but it's getting there. I love the place. This is lived here longer than I've ever lived in any one place in my entire life.
Thank you.
John, why are you running for city council?
Well, to be bluntly honest with you, I really look at this as an attempt to, in some small way, give back to the city that has made me so happy for the last 20 years. I love living here. I love the people here. I see the potential here. I've been fortunate enough to serve on city council, and we've started some things that I'd like to see finished because some of these things have my handprint on them. I want to be a part of the new city manager's transition into Justin. I want to get him off on the right foot, as though in a better way than our last city manager, who was a good lady, but just not the right management style. I want to see the town center come to fruition. I want to make sure we have solidified and guaranteed our water distribution capabilities in lieu of growth and the drought that's probably going to show up here one of these days. We just finished a 7-year one not too long ago. I'd really like to help the city and be a part of making us a transition from a general law city to a home rule city. Very specifically in that, I'd like to see us put different terms down for the city council people and a different term for the mayor. I'd also like to see installed term limits so we don't have career politicians in our city county government. I'd like to have a recall facility, and I'd like to help that in so that if people are unhappy with their council or their mayor, they can simply get it on the ballot to recall them. I'd like to see 4th Street start upgrading and become the old town center that everybody loves. I'd like the city to transform into a different mode of operation as far as its citizens concerned. I want the people in City Hall to come to work every day, including the council and mayor, and say, what are we doing today that can make the citizens of Justin life better to live? How do we improve their quality of life by our existence and our operations? And all those things drive me to want to be back on council and help finish some of the things that were started. That's me in a nutshell.